heard from John, and to be honest, that was the first direct contact information I had about the course. Excellent, first class, met his needs. He felt as though it had moved him from being somebody who had an interest in training to somebody who was competent to go and start using training as an earning vehicle. And I always had an interest and a passion in keeping fit, so I thought I would do it, and it certainly met everything I expected. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. John was my son. He came, so he was the forerunner of the Hendren family getting involved in this business, and he's whetted my appetite for actually doing it, not professionally, but certainly part time now that I'm retired. Basically looking after the house, doing the cleaning and that, doing everything my wife told me to do. I'm sure that will still happen when I get back. I was a purchasing director for a very large chemical company. Nothing glamorous, it was just about negotiating deals. Totally different, had absolutely nothing to do with personal training. And if I had to say how I've enjoyed this compared with the time I've spent in these 2 weeks with 2 weeks at work, then this has certainly been a lot more enjoyable than 2 weeks at work. I had a great job, by the way. It was very enjoyable, but this has been really pleasurable. What I wanted to do was to understand the role of personal training and how it could be used to perhaps start a business that might actually involve personal training. The online learning was very effective in terms of setting a basis for coming here, and it really was necessary. I don't think you get the best from this unless you put the effort in before arriving. The online learning was certainly a basis for what we did. The real use I found in the learning here was the one-on-one discussions, the questions that were being asked, and the personal tuition that came from the trainers. They filled in the bits that were missing from the online learning. You only get that because it was the voice experience that was talking. I mean, they're not people who are, had just learned this from a set of theory books. They're people actually applying what the personal training skills and knowledge in the real world, and that was very, very evident in the class training. How did I find the physical side was exhausting to start with, and then it got easier. I mean, I think there's a bit of a shock to the system when there's one day in particular, if anybody is thinking of doing this, there is one day on the beach, you think you're on the beach, you're going to have a nice morning, are you hell? It's going to be hard. You are going to work, but you're going to learn an awful lot. If you've never heard the battle ropes, find out about them and make them your best friend, because they are hard. The tutors are very well informed. One of the things I think I commented, which is relevant, and I think the other students as well would have picked this up, is that when you do something, if you're out there, you're going to be a PT. You don't just want to be an average PT. You want to be very, very good PT. You have to differentiate yourself somehow, and you're going to have to attract people to want to use you, because there's always somebody else who you'll be competing with. I think what the guys did was to demonstrate pretty much what best practice might be like in the PT world and who you're competing with. I think there's a lot of weak guys out there, but you don't want to be just an average Joe. You want to be amongst the best. And if you are going to be amongst the best, then at this point in becoming you a professional trainer, I think focusing on the knowledge level and the skills that people like Toby, Chris and Mike and Caroline have got, I think that's a good place to start. It gives you an insight into what the standard is that you have to achieve. The PT clinic was more difficult than expected. You go through, you spend 40 years when you're working with people, and you've got people working for you and you work for somebody always. You think that you know how to pass instructions on. Do you? Heck, to actually, when you've got an hour and you're going through something that's new and you know that you want to cover it in a way that that person's going to feel they get something from, particularly for the pay, you have to be pretty darn focused. You have to just know your material, and don't insult them by thinking that you can just reproduce what you did perhaps an hour before with a different person. Everybody's individual, and you've got to do your homework to understand what they want and how you can use this material to make sure that they feel they're getting value for money. But it was more difficult. It really was more difficult to put across this stuff than I thought it would be. It's not just about putting words together that you understand. It's about putting words together in a way that's going to convey a message for them to understand, and that's a bit more of a challenge. But it was great fun, absolutely great, and that's one of the nice things about it. It was there's a real mix of personalities that all get on well together because you've got this common purpose of being here. What I will do is to use this to develop a commercial hobby. How do you commercialise this? That's the thing, and that's the challenge. That's the intellectual challenge.